any steps companies can take, or how would a small or mid-sized company start to change their architecture?
I think you've got to get into their board, and you need to talk to the people on their board first to understand what they really want. And also a good question is not just, is that what you want? You know, do you believe in it, and are you going to work that way? Or, you know, are you actually going to be driven by your investors at time to be able to make rash decisions without arguing against your investors? And I think that happens quite a lot of times. That it's very difficult when you have investors in your company. You know, they want their payback, but it's really sometimes can be more damaging. I don't always think that the truth is always told clearly to boards, to investors. I think there needs to be, one of the things that does need to be clear, I work for a company who were absolutely superb, and they are an outsourced contact centre, and they were people who had kind of moved away from the largest telemarketing company in the world and had set up on their own. And their philosophy was very clear, was about open and honesty and transparency. And we were very clear to everyone, from, you know, the lowest agents to the cleaner to our investors. We were absolutely 100% honest and transparent with what was going on. And, you know, I've seen very much in the last 5 years totally the opposite, where information is only given when need to be. And to investors, it was, the truth was quite protracted. And that is a difficulty, is that I think that definitely that honesty and transparency is one of the first things that some companies need to do, and be transparent with their workforce over what they're trying to do, because they will get far better buy-in from their staff, because that's the other thing I've seen. And it is quite big in the UK, I'm not sure in America, where, you know, people go to work because they go to work because they want money. And that's about it. They go in, they do their job, and they moan, and they continuously moan, because there's not that truth and honesty and that inspiration from the bosses. Now, the listening company, which was the outsourced contact centre that I worked with a number of years ago, we were able to inspire the workforce, maybe incite them at times to be so passionate about it, because there was truth and honesty throughout the whole company. And everyone collaborated together, and we had quite a flat structure, and it really worked, where there were no silos. Everything worked for the common good, which was the operational happening, was the heart of the company. And every department worked to support each other to make sure we could do the one thing, which is make the clients the happiest people in the whole world. And so I think there are very simple things that need to be done, but it comes back to it with being truth and honest of where you want to go, and talking to your people properly. And when you say empower them. Don't, you know, if you're going to pay senior managers' wages, then empower them to do their job. If they muck up, they learn by it. What you don't do is tie the hands of your senior managers, which again, I have seen that not just in manufacturing, but I've seen that in a number of organisations where the board wants so much control that becomes damaging to the workforce. Is you have to empower the people and allow them to make a decision and get it wrong. So I do think that there are very simple things that could be done, but it has to start with the board, and the board need to lead more, and they need to inspire. They look and they try and recruit people, and they always talk about inspiration, energizing people. It would be good to see that from some boards, because I don't think you always get that. that there's, some models are, they're very good, but the one I think that we've gone through is, I think we've become too clever for ourselves at times. There is a lot of kind of old traditional ways that if you adapt into the modern society that are absolutely great. I mean, I think I wrote something the other day, which is, what happened to the natural inspirer who's able to motivate and manage and doesn't have all these vast amounts of things behind them, because they were naturally able to organise, plan, come in on time, come in on budget, and they have natural abilities for that. And I think we've made a lot of things very, very difficult for ourselves. And if we take a complete step back and have a look at the different methodologies there are and principles, and maybe it's just about adapting the principles that we've made and making them more simplistic to be able to follow. I don't know, I don't think it's about rewriting or, going back to the blackboard. I think there's some very, very good things out there. I just think that we should always be adapting and moving on, but maybe we've adapted too technically. And by looking at things more simplistically, you get things done better.
I think that may be true. And I think it's a very important topic, and very relevant for companies to figure out how to make these simple changes.
Yeah, it is, and you will find an awful lot of companies have a lot of pride as well, and they don't want to actually say that they're not doing it in the right way. And I think that, it does take people to come in and go outside their kind of normal arena to be able to see where things can be different. And a lot of the times, it's not about the actual work or anything that's going on. It's down to the fact of everything you see and you read is all very this methodology, that methodology, this technical solution, that technical solution. And the one thing I've ever seen very much written anywhere is about the one thing that can actually ruin a business hugely, and it is nothing to do with, well, it will be slightly to do with the architectural makeup because silo bases actually produces this more, but you don't see vast amount written about human nature and what people are like and how people can be the worst things for companies. And I would like to see more, I think, information or even people working together on that. The one thing about it is we all know is, you took away, if you decided to take away every government around and you had anarchy wouldn't last for very long because of human nature. There will be people who will go over and will lead and will take over. That's life. And it's the one part that's missing in all the stuff I see written about companies is, there is all this, yes, look after the people, empower the people, but there's nothing very direct about the way people react and act towards each other can actually have a massive impact on what happens in companies. And I've seen some things, over the years where some individuals who are not very nice individuals have got away with quite a lot of things, and I find it quite amazing how, but it's had a massive detrimental effect on the company, and it's missed out by, certain people. So I think it's a big area that we need to look at as well, is how the influence of HR and this being, talking to people and about putting complaints in. Because I've seen, I don't know if you have, but over in America, but I've seen in businesses a massive increase of petty, stupid complaints that takes up business time of managers and that type of thing. Because let's say if someone's performance managing someone, and that person goes to speak to HR, and HR says, well, you're not happy or you're upset, are they bullying you? And then that person puts in a complaint. And I think in the last, definitely 5 years, I've seen that on the increase in a number of different organisations, and I've had a talk to people about it, and you find that people's normal behaviour and that has started to change, where you used to deal a lot of things to do with line manager. If you're not happy, you go to your boss and say, well, I'm not really happy about that performance thing you gave. But now they go to HR and it ends up in an informal complaint, and it all gets thrown out afterwards because you realise that, no, the person actually wasn't really doing a good job in the first place. But the difficulty is you've then just wasted about 3 or 4 meetings of a manager's part to deal with something that didn't really have to happen. And I wonder how much HR is actually influencing that, where I mean, it's a big area that I also look at. Is HR is very important to advise and influence and facilitate as a support function. You know, I think it's a question we need to put forward in some companies. When did HR take over running operations?
So thank you for spending time today